out here watching me. And my professors and all my friendly faculty faces, thank y'all so much for coming. It like means the world to me. So I just want to let you guys know my pieces are either super sad and kind of morbid or like funky and strange. So I'm gonna try and give you guys like a mix of the two. I hope you like it. Black History Month just ended and Women's Month just started, so my first piece is going to kind of pay homage to both. It's called For Brianna. I write a lot of poems about death, metaphorical and symbolic death, of course. Poetry is death, poetry is survival. Sad sells, you know? Not that I'm selling my poetry, but I guess in a way I am. Performing poetry is a kind of exchange. You take my sadness and I take your applause. No, it's poetry. We snap. Perhaps the vibrations that come off your middle fingers hitting your palms will create enough electricity to jumpstart my heart. I don't write poems for fun anymore. This isn't to say I quit. It's just that writing about death during a pandemic feels a bit tone deaf. These mostly functional lungs in this BMI way too high body make me a target. The system wants me dead. Or at least they do nothing to protect me from dying. And now this water droplet villain is looking for easy pickings. Can't think about ventilators and hearts restarting now, though. Definitely can't think about poetry. How do you know that you're grieving? Does it take a cadaver or a funeral broadcasted on all the major networks to really fire up your sad engines? Grief sneaks up on you most efficiently when you don't know that you're grieving. No signs of sadness around, no tears in the forecast. Goodness gracious, I didn't even know her. 1 minute you're all wrecking ball, hear me, I will make you hear me. Breonna Taylor, where's her justice? Where's her justice? And people are honking their horns and you think, maybe I'm not in danger, maybe I'm safe. Then you're sitting on the edge of your twin bed, looking at your She Was Sleeping poster that you threw together an hour before the protest, and suddenly you're full on sobbing, praying your sweet mates can't hear you because what would you say? I'm grieving a woman I never met, but she was mine, you know? She was mine as I walked up and down the streets, screaming for justice that will never be hers. Can we say her name back into existence? Thank you. So the next thing I have is, it's an excerpt from my travel log. Yeah. This isn't how you mourn a matriarch. We're late to Gunny's remembrance mass. The Floridians couldn't find their socks, their shirts, their hair ties, their grief. My brother's pants are high waters, but there aren't any floods in the forecast. I almost forgot my veil, got my veil, where's my coat? We're gonna be late, we're gonna be late. 5 minutes or you're walking. We leave in 2 separate cars. My mother, my brother, the Floridians, and I in one car. Gunny Fefe and my dad in the other. They say grief either brings the mourning family together or drives them apart. This family has always been somewhere in between floating and sinking. There is no being together or being apart, just good days and bad days and trying to stay afloat. We got to church late. The mass is in English and lasts approximately 10 seconds. This isn't how you mourn a matriarch. We get to the cemetery. This is my first time seeing the headstone because I was in the mountains when they put it up. Maybe I thought to myself, the headstone is so beautiful, but I didn't run with that thought. I didn't vocalize it either. I think the superstition warns that if you say a headstone is beautiful, the owner will take you with them. You don't have to believe it, you know? It haunts you either way. The Floridians, my brother and I, stand in an awkward semicircle. Shoot! We forgot our tears at the house. My other cousins file in and form their own quasi-lines, quasi-groupings. Each family stands separate from the next. Gunny always loved to see us together, laughing, dancing, being these part-time American, part-time second-gen, part-time patry-less hybrids. This isn't how you mourn a matriarch. My mom leans against her mom, now a memory in a stone, and cries. My mom leaned on Gunny until Gunny had to lean on my mom. I leaned on Gunny my whole life. Now when I need to lean, when my knees can't carry me, all I can do is fall and pray that there's someone nearby to catch me. That's what happened a year ago at the funeral. I saw them lower her in, and I couldn't stand anymore. Gunny, who taught me how to walk, who stood by my side through my whole life, was not there to be my support. So I let my feet go. No time to worry about sinking or swimming or floating or drifting or falling. Maybe when I hit the ground, I'd roll and roll and roll and roll until I'm on top of the casket. They'll pack me in with dirt, 1 shovel at a time. People will throw flowers. They'll go home, and I'll lay there with Gunny in the cold. That's not what happened. I lost my legs, and the strangers who were standing near me caught me. I didn't get to drop my rose in the hole. The strangers found my uncles, and somehow I ended up in a limo. The funeral went on without me. Life went on without Gunny. Life goes on. Now we stand here in our awkward semicircles and lines, and I still can't find my tears. My aunt comes around with styrofoam cups, and my cousin comes around with wine. The Floridians, my brother and I, aren't big drinkers, so we sit around and sip. Some pour wine onto Gunny's grave before drinking. All my cousins should be here. All my aunts and uncles and what felt like hundreds of distant relatives who we didn't know but kissed anyway at the funeral last year, they should all be here, not us few mourners in staggered sections, oft in immediate families, with wet eyes above masked nose and mouths. Well, my eyes aren't wet. I still can't find my tears or my grief. This is not how you mourn a matriarch. One of the pods of cousins stands silently crying the whole time. Gospel music blasts from my mom's car, and my mom and my aunt dance for Gunny. The Floridians, my brother and I, laugh. Everyone else is silent. My aunt tells my cousins not to cry. They say it's better that she died last year. Had she fallen ill this year, we wouldn't be able to visit her in the hospital. We wouldn't be able to go to the funeral. Oh, there's my grief. Oh, my tears too? Crying is like hot hands snaked around your throat, daring you to let the tears fall. The hot hands grip tighter and tighter as the hot balls of tears grow bigger and bigger in your throat. I want to scream. I let the tears fall silently. We drive away in separate cars to go about our separate days and our separate lives. We leave Gunny under her pretty tombstone in her cold grave. Last year, there weren't any graves past her row. Now there are 2 new rows. In the newest row, they prepare a new hole for a new body. But we, the living, do not stay around and hang out with the dead. We, the living, do strange things like go Black Friday shopping during a global pandemic. We, the living, leave our tears behind at the cemetery. Perhaps there will be other mourners who forgot their tears too. We, the living, leave. Life goes on. This is not how you mourn a matriarch. Okay, so now I have 3 14-liners. I would call them sonnets, but they're not really sonnets. They don't follow the rules, and like Shakespeare would probably frown or something. But I think they're pretty good. And the last one is styled after Pablo Neruda, and they're all of the same name. They're all titled, If You Let Me Love You Like a Love Poem. If you let me love you like a love poem, I wouldn't have to compare you to a summer's day. I wouldn't have to compare you to anything because you, honey, are inimitable. The way I feel about you is inevitable. You haunt me from when I wake to when I sleep, if I sleep, because you keep me roused, which is to say that you arouse me, my very own incubus. You prey on me as I slumber, making me want to hate you. I hate you in the morning when I see you walking her to class. I hate you in the evening when you leave me for her. I hate you when you complain, hate the way you were before you met her, when it was us, when I thought about our chance. When I dreamt of our first dance, now my dreams transformed into delusional nightmares where you tempt me all night long, then leave. If you let me love you like a love poem, I would love you like a sonnet. I would build a fence around our 14 lines of love to ensure our longevity. I would love you until it didn't make sense. My friends would tell me to be careful, but there is nothing careful about poetry. Love is sort of like flirting with death, betting your mental health on someone, knowing humans are fragile creatures. I would love you the way broken girls try to fix men. I would love you like therapy. I would tear you apart until you did not recognize the you before me. I would destroy you. Isn't love just destruction? Isn't it seduction to create addiction to a person to make you need? If you let me love you like a love poem, I would crave your mouth, your voice, your hair. They would contact every magician they know to conjure up a potion, an anti-poison. They would call up Jesus and ask him how he did that trick with Lazarus. They would call up Lee Harvey and John Wilkes Booth to study what they did so they can do the reverse and inverse assassination. They would have to master the art of resurrection because I want to eat your hot heart. I cannot let death consume you. I need to be the one to eat you from the inside out. I must breathe life into you. I want to be your ventilator, so you need my lips on yours to breathe. I want to swallow you whole. If you let me love you like a love poem, I would imbibe your love and bury you in my chest. Thank you. This next poem is called Ars Poetica, which is just fancy talk for a poem about poetry. Ars Poetica. The heart is a fragile thing, but this has nothing to do with the heart. This here is not a luxury. This here is a necromancer's erotica. This here is the act of revival, the act of making that which stopped beating long ago pump again. This has nothing to do with the heart. There is nothing romantic about running the pen across a page in an attempt to bite the hand that reaches out to choke you, or little black boys who look like you, or your little black brother. See, this cannot be a luxury. This cannot be something scrawled in loopy cursive on a tiny card tucked neatly into a bouquet of soon-to-be dead things. No. This is an act of giving a voice to people who the hands want to turn into casket fillers, grabbing hands who want to consume, consume, consume. So you have to do things like write your inedibility into existence. You have to compare yourself to something deadly, not a thorny rose. No, this isn't romance. This isn't a luxury. You must write yourself into oleander. You must brew yourself into lily of the valley tea and pray your weak metaphors will circle around their heads long enough to keep you alive. Funny how the killing thing is the only thing that can keep you alive, but this is not about hearts. There isn't time to write about hearts. This thing is not a luxury. The world is trying to erase you. Pick up your pen and write yourself into existence. Make yourself permanent. So even if the hand reaches your throbbing neck and squeezes the breath out of your body, your temporary, consumable, crushable body, your spirit will still be alive, too tangled in simile and stanza, too elusive to be grabbed and erased. So I'm going to